Guys, really sorry about this. There's some issue. I can't seem to be able to add Taufiq ji. Let me just try once more. I've managed to send him an invite. I think.
There you are.
Finally. How are you, sir?
क्या यार बड़ा अजीब है मामला है उल्फत.
We've had similar issues in the past also. For some reason, the account says that is following you, and you're following the account. But for some reason, when I type your name in, it doesn't pop up for me to click invite. And finally, it did.
That's very funny. ऐसा होना नहीं चाहिए.
Yeah, strange. Technology को भी COVID हो रहा है.
थोड़ा फॉर्मल हो जाता हूँ.
मेरा भी एक बटन बाकी है. Should I?
नहीं यार गर्मी है बहुत.
Absolutely. And the climate is not helping at all with this situation also.
Nothing is helping.
Seriously.
Nothing is helping the musicians basically.
Yeah, the live scene, the engineers, the musicians, everyone. Some of them are trying to do online gigs, but I don't think even that has taken off to a large extent.
See, देखिए भैया, IPL is happening.
True.
That is happening, no. But nothing is happening for musicians.
True.
You're just sitting at home and doing this what we are doing just now.
Thank you so much for taking out time, sir, and joining us.
It's my pleasure, and really, thank you for inviting me here. And really, let's have a nice chat. At least we'll जितना भला होगा निकालेंगे इधर.
Absolutely, absolutely. Yeah. So, welcome everyone who's watching. We apologize for the technical issues that delayed the start of this live session. But let's kick it off. We have none other than Mr. Taufiq Qureshi with us. And sir, we should start off with your journey for the younger audience. Uh, Everyone knows you, but I'm sure there's a small section of people who have only heard your name and not the story behind it. So, could you please take us briefly through your journey so far?
Well, my journey, I guess if you're talking about my musical journey,
yes, yes, yes.
that started, I think, as soon as I was brought from the hospital to my home. Because the tabla sound was always there in the house,
True, true.
Everywhere, my father would be practicing. Zakir Bhai, who's 12 years older to me, would be practicing. The students would be coming to learn from my father. That time we used to live in Mahim, behind Magdum Shah Baba's Dargah.
Right, right.
There. So, my childhood went there till I was about 10 years, we were in Mahim. So my musical journey started from there only, hearing the naad of that fantastic instrument. And being in that family, being born into that family, and I'm always thankful to God that He gave me birth in a family where there was Ustad Allah Rakha and there is Ustad Zakir Hussain. So fortunate to be born in a family which had these two stalwarts, legend, you can say. So always seeing Abbaji practice and crawling to the tabla, and going and banging my hands, and then my father would take me in his lap, and then again I would bang. So वो तो चलता है, वो हर बच्चे का होता था, होता है और होता रहेगा. जैसे शिखर का मेरे साथ when he was small, he would, and I would be practicing with the djembe and all that, and he would I had to hold him, and then he would bang. So वो तो चलता रहता है. But my mother, who was very keen that, there are already, these kids, like me and my other brother, these guys should do some studies. They should do something apart from music. So of course, we all went to school. And but my father, he soon realized that, as studies are concerned, my favorite color would be red. Red marks everywhere. Teacher का सब red marks ही होता था. जहाँ देखो report में भी सब red. He said कि अरे लगता है ये कुछ करने वाला नहीं है पढ़ाई में. Let me teach him. So then my mother also gave up. She said, okay. So usually in musical families, the kids start learning at a very early age. At the 5 or 6, they are learning.
Right.
But for me, it started late. I mean, at the age of almost 8 or 9, I started learning under my father.
But I'm sure there must have been a level of subconscious learning also, right? I mean, much before you start.
That absorbing was always happening. Students playing, learning, my father teaching. That was always happening. The kid's mind, they say, the brain of the kids, or the mind, from the age of 2 to 11, is like a sponge.
Right.
Soaks in everything.
Right.
And keeps it there. And then as you grow older, then it brings it out. So that absorbing was always happening. But the formal training happened at the age of 9, started at the age of 9, which was a bit late, but and then of course I started learning, became a Gandabad student because that was the process. You had to tie the Ganda, and all of us had tied the Ganda. So it's a thread, which the Ustad ties on your head. You become a student and you are welcomed into the Gharana, the Punjab. So that happened, and then I started learning. But I was always attracted to other percussions, other rhythms. I had a bongo. So whenever a film song would come, I would take the bongos in my lap and I would start banging on it, imagining myself to be part of the orchestra. So I think I always wanted to play in film songs. And that happened later in my life. I started working in films. But that's a different journey. So I came into college, and then, college I was playing. various percussions. I was already into it because in college I met some friends. One would be playing drums, somebody's playing congas. I was always into bongo. So meeting these friends, exchanging ideas, congas, meeting people. I all started playing small orchestra shows. So met many musicians over there who playing congas and the two-piece conga, the three-piece
Right.
conga.
Right.
Understanding how a duff is played, how a dimri is played, how a madal is played. And then from there, I progressed into recordings, small recordings, and then I joined film recordings under Anand Milim in about 86 or so. Started working with them, and then my journey in the industry started. I told my father I want to stop classical music. I just want to do film
Oh,
music. He said, fine, as long as you do music, it's okay.
right.
Because I know you
Right.
can't do anything else. Music karega, theek hai. So that's my
So
journey.
how many years did you spend learning the classical side of things?
It was till his departure to the other world, I was
Okay.
always
Okay.
learning.
Oh, okay.
He passed away in 2000, but even when I would go, I got married in 93 and I
Right.
shifted to Kandivali.
Right.
But I would keep, whenever I would go to Simla House, which is at Nepean Road, I would always sit with my father and ask him some question, learn something from him. That learning process was always on. It
Right.
was always on. So that industry, I spent a lot of time there. And then one day my wife kind of shook me and she said, "You're just wasting, not wasting, you're just in the studio from 9 in the morning to 2 in the morning. What are you doing? What
Right.
about your live playing? You're a live musician. You belong to a family of live percussionists. What are you
Right.
doing?" That really said, "Oh," I said, "Ah, that's true." So I stopped all film work. I stopped all recordings. That is about 98. And then I
Oh,
started practicing, practiced a lot. And then Ridhun came, which was a big, big blessing for me because that was a launching pad for me. Ridhun really brought me into the forefront. Oh, there is a person called Taufiq Qureshi. And Ridhun at that time in 2000 when it released was an album which was not a Bollywood album, not a ghazal album, not a pop album, not a thematic album, no songs, only an instrumental album coming from India, which it was a new thing at that time in India. And I explored
I'm
Marathi.
actually very thankful to you for coming out with that album because that's one of the albums, back when you're in school or college, you save up money to buy cassettes, right? This was one of the cassettes that I had saved up for. And I thoroughly enjoyed, it opened my eyes and it got me more interested in percussion, world percussion,
Yeah,
actually.
it was the first time Maharashtrian rhythm was explored in a different way with Gigi Ray. It was the first time that a classical bandish was taken and given a very popish and a very rockish feel with the drums and having a little arrangements of strings and all behind them. It became a benchmark for other musicians that which many of them followed. For the
True.
first time, a song was composed using only voice percussion called
True.
Ridun, which was me and Shankar. We did that. For the first time, my father sang. My father came and sang in it, and myself and my other brother Fazal and Zakir Bhai, we featured in that album, all four of us together.
Right.
It was the first of its kind. So Ridun really propelled me and opened a lot of doors for me. I started doing a lot of corporate shows. And then because of that, a balance happened because the new generation musicians, music directors came like Shankar Ehsaan Loy,
Right.
Preetam, and then Vishal Shekhar, and then Sajid Wajid,
Right.
and so many others. So a balance happened because they wanted me to work with them. I wanted to work with them because they were all friends. And but I was also playing live concerts. And with SEL, what happened, I was doing a lot of live concerts with Shankar at that time. So we
Right.
would be in live concerts somewhere and then we would discuss, okay, अभी ये मिशन कश्मीर का रिकॉर्डिंग होने वाला है तो तू उधर आ जाना. अच्छा अभी दिल चाहता का है तो उधर आ जाना. अच्छा वो रॉकफोर्ड का चल रहा है. अच्छा कुछ ना कहो का चल रहा है. वो अभय का चल रहा है. We were doing live concerts also. We would be live on stage and we would be working in studios also. So that was a
Right.
very nice thing which happened, and I started making a balance between live
Right.
recording and live concerts and recording. So वो balance fit. maintain hone laga, and I still maintain that balance. Although now that whole work has gone down because a lot of my students have displaced me, from and but I'm very proud of it. I'm very proud, like Dipesh and Gautam and Shikhar and Omkar, Kiyur. They're doing a lot of studio work, and good because the next generation has to come ahead. Like how we in the 80s when we came, there, our seniors were there, but they welcomed us with open hands, with open
Right.
arms, and in fact supported us and taught us. Like myself and Nitin Shankar ji, and many others. Ramu Chang, who is a very fantastic drummer, also rhythm, rhythm programmer. So we worked under them, and they taught us. But we kind of displaced them in a way.
Right.
And now, so the next gen has to
The
come.
cycle continues. Yeah.
So that's it. And now I'm a lot of the time. So that gave me a lot of time to work on defining my father's knowledge onto the djembe. The tabla knowledge onto the djembe, for which I know now, Taufiq Qureshi, because see, 15 years back, djembe, nobody knew what djembe was in India.
Absolutely.
And I started playing and I started popularizing it with my students and all that, playing them in live shows and in recordings. Now I can see djembe everywhere. I see djembes happening in drum circles and in music for relaxations and all these kind of things, which is good. I'm very happy that djembe has picked up so much. I'm not saying that it's because of me, but it's also because of people who started loving djembe. And djembe is such a
True.
djembe is a beautiful instrument. So now it's djembe,
Absolutely.
and then it also through in my journey through with somewhere, I also started feeling that I can do a lot of voice elements because I had it in me, doing the breath percussion and using other tonal structures, in it. And so I started working on my vocal percussion and started doing that. Then I also started my band Mumbai Stamp. Now Mumbai Stamp is a band which predominantly performs on thrash material. It's inspired
Right.
by the very famous Stomp band. But of course,
Right.
that's the only thing because what they do, we don't do. We can't do what they do. They're fantastic. They're great. So whatever small we can do, हम अपने तरीके से करते हैं. So Mumbai Stamp also started. So I did a lot of things. I had my band Surya. Surya band also had the very first musicians in the band were Shankar Mahadevan, Salim Merchant on keyboard, Sridhar Sarthi on mridangam, and we had
Wow.
guest artists like Sultan Khan Saab, Zakir Bhai. Indiscreet, the very famous band, featured as a guest artist with
Absolutely.
us. So we did a lot of shows in Surya. Surya was another experiment, a band of mine, my voice percussions, djembe, Mumbai Stamp, and then of
You
course
were
my own
part of
corporate
uh,
shows. So that's my journey basically.
right. You were also part of Global Drum Project and Remember Shakti also, I think.
Yes, I performed for some of Remember Shakti show, and yes, I was been fortunate to be part of the Global Drum Project, which won the Grammy in 2009. I mean, it
Right.
was amazing. One day Zakir Bhai called me, and Mickey Hart was also there over there. They were both on the phone, and he said, I'm sending you some files. We've worked out, and we'd like you to do some percussions on it. So I said, oh, definitely, my honor, you know. And then he said that, Niladri will also be part of it, and Sabir, Sarang Maestro, will also be part of it. So why don't you dub them also, do the dubbing in the same place with them? I said, okay, I'll organize it. So I did my percussion parts, and I had Niladri come and dub his parts, and Sabir kind of worked it out with them. I didn't know how much of my percussion and my voice, I did a lot of voice things also would be used. I didn't know. But when the album released and then Zakir Bhai gave me a copy, I realized that a lot of the things that I had sent, they had kept it. In fact, there's a piece called Baba, which features the
Right.
famous Baba Tunde Olatunji, the famous Nigerian percussionist. And there's a section, and in that, Baba is doing a lot of voice things. And in
Right.
that section, I had done a whole voice thing with my breathing and all the other textures. And they used all that, and I was so touched. I said, wow, this is great. And in other pieces also, uh, they use a lot of my percussion parts. So I was fortunate, to be part of this Grammy Award winning album. And I'm truly indebted and grateful to Zakir Bhai and to Mickey Hart for this.
that must have been some experience, that a different world of.
To be part of it. Great
Absolutely.
experience.
Let's just take a look at the comments that are coming in. Oh, Dipesh is here.
तो होगा ही.
Dipesh. Namaste, Taufiq bhai. Hello, Harish. Hi, Dipesh. Ridhun is a blessing for all the percussionists as well as music lovers all over the globe, says Abhishek Tendulkar. Uh, M. Anish says, Pranam, sir. I think a lot of your students are here.
मेरे स्टूडेंट भी आए होंगे बेसिकली.
Akul Raval says, I love your Panchamda arrangements.
Yeah, I did a Panchamda kind of arrangement in one song in this lockdown. So it's
Right.
talking about that.
Okay. So good to see you here, Taufiq sir. This is Raghuraman Subramanian, Ramasubramanian. Siddesh says hi. How and why? There's a question that's come in. How and why do you think djembe became so popular in India? I think the answer is in front of us.
नहीं ऐसा नहीं है. I guess because the sound of the djembe is very universal.
Yeah.
Just to let everybody know, djembe is in percussion. If you see, it is one of the oldest percussion instruments. In fact, in old carvings and all that, you see musicians. I mean, you see people wearing headgear and standing with a cylindrical instrument, which looks like the djembe.
Right.
So it's in itself, it's one of the oldest percussion instruments. So in that sense, I'm saying it is universal. Also because the djembe playing itself is not difficult.
True.
Like
True.
the tabla, mirdangam, the dholak, the pakhawaj, or the drum set. These are instruments which are difficult to, initiate. The very first things to play in these instruments is not easy. The na nikalna, on the mridangam, the tum nikalna, या पखावज में वो धा आना चाहिए. Or in drum set, the combination of thick hi-hat snare. It's not easy. The djembe by itself, you just take it and you start banging on it, वो sound आएगा. It's like वो बोलते हैं ना कि on the piano, even if a mouse walks, it will be in
right. It will be a melody. Right.
djembe पर ऐसा करोगे तो sound आ जाएगा. But then it is a technique of getting the right tones. In the djembe, the African djembe, there are only 3 tones: bass, tone, and a slap. And they do that with both the hands. Now, that's why it is very simple to play on it. So that's why it is a popular instrument with people, And I started doing various techniques on it. The tabla technique, the ghatam technique, which I learned from Vidwan Viku Vinayak Ramji. So I incorporated those techniques, the conga technique where I play the mute conga. So I introduced some of my own techniques, and that added a little more flavor to it by, otherwise the djembe has only 3 tones. But because of these, I can explore many tones onto the djembe, which made it interesting for grooves and everything to happen. And I guess maybe that's why it's a popular instrument, I guess.
But do you think it's also because you applied vocabulary from other disciplines and other instruments onto this instrument? Is that how you also discovered newer tones and voices?
I did, because I applied the bowls.
Right.
I needed a language because वो धा धिन तेरा किटा धिना गिना वो कैसे आएगा?
Correct.
I created my own language. Dha became dhe.
So you transposed it.
I transposed. Ti became ta.
Okay.
Ta remained ta. Ta remained ta. Tira kita became keta for me. So I transposed that whole language, So then the whole stroking came into play. And then I use a technique of the ghatam, which is 1, 2, 3, which I learned from Bikuji. So this technique of mine, this 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, and 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. This technique on the ghatam I use on the djembe, on my party hand. So that also then, because of that, another tonal structure came onto the djembe. So the djembe is being explored to its fullest, I feel, because of all these baj, jisko kehte hain na, the playing of these various instruments which has come into it.
Okay, but how receptive has Bollywood or films been to djembe? Because even though musically it's a very unique instrument and it's got a very unique sound, but you know how it is, right? People tend to stereotype the sound with certain cultures and certain representations. So was it that नहीं नहीं ये djembe नहीं वो फिर वो जंगल का लगता है या अफ्रीका का लगता है? Did you get those kind of reactions?
No, I did. I mean, there were skepticism to hota hi hai. Like if you see the song from Dil Chahta Hai, Tanhaaye.
Correct.
Very famous song. Okay.
Right.
Now, when I went and I did the rhythm for this song, Shankar and me, because we were friends, and Shankar said, "Hey, come, gana karna hai." So I was already working somewhere, and from there I came in the evening. And Shankar and Sanloy, from a very early time in their work, they pack up early and go. You know, they were like by 8 o'clock, 9, they would be out of there. So I came in at about 8:15, 8:30. So Shankar said, "Tu gana sun le, dekh tu apne hisab se kar le. Khali Sonu ka voice hai, and there is a loop going on." So I heard the song. When I heard the song, the whole song, the melody is so fantastic, beautifully created by Shankar. मुझे दिमाग में क्या आने लगा, वो हम when I used to be in Mahim, वो संदल आते थे ना, वो मोहर्रम के टाइम में मातम करते हुए, तो वो मातम का एक रिदम चलता था, एक रिदम चलता था, और वो एक रिदम चल रहा है और उसके ऊपर वो लोग कर रहे हैं, वो एक झोल रिदम का, दिता 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 वो चल रहा है, और वो मेरे को I said इस टाइप का रिदम इस गाने में अच्छा लगेगा, and I used the djembe, of course with it. No, I used the djembe. I use other frame drums also, but djembe is it's part of it. The book and the djembe. And next day morning, Shankar came and he heard the song and he called me. And he said, "क्या किया तूने?" मुझे लगा मैंने कुछ गलत किया. बोला, "Sorry यार, कुछ गलत हो." नहीं, बहुत अच्छा लग रहा है. तो गाने का कलर भी बदल गया, तो अच्छा लगने लगा. तो मैंने बोला, "चलो, thank you." तो djembe. Then once I was working with Ranjit bhai on Ux का गाना है ये रात.
Right.
किसने तो भी अनुपमा ने गाया है वो, ये रात नारिया रेको की रात, ये रात. तो रंजीत भाई का अरेंजमेंट इतना उसमें कमाल है, अरेंजमेंट ब्यूटीफुल. तो वो टेक्सचर मेरे को djembe ही नजर आया उसमें. So I'm playing djembe, the flying with some roll and a groove and all that, and it is going so nicely with that song, And I use djembe in many songs, I use djembe in that song. कर दे मुश्किल जीना इश्क कमीना.
Right.
तो वो तो djembe काफी गानों में मैंने यूज किया है. तो यूज करते समय लगता था किसी को कि भाई, कभी अनुमा ने पूछा इसका क्या है, कुछ अफ्रीकन क्या है, मैं बोला नहीं आप इसको ऐसे सुनिए ना, ये गाने में बड़ा अच्छा लगेगा. तो when you hear it in the groove you feel क्या बात है. That's why I feel djembe is a universal instrument in its sense कि it can fit in anywhere. वो जैज में भी अच्छा लगेगा, वो इंडियन में भी अच्छा लगेगा, वो मिडिल ईस्टर्न में भी अच्छा लगेगा, वो कुछ रॉकिश होगा उसमें भी अच्छा लगेगा, वो कुछ सैड सॉन्ग में भी अच्छा लगेगा, वो हैप्पी सॉन्ग में भी अच्छा लगेगा. तो djembe का बड़ा एक उसका एक यूनिवर्सिटी है.
Right, and versatility depending on how you speak through it.
Yes, it depends on how you're voicing, what kind of pattern you're making.
Right, the attack, everything. Right.
Yes. The dynamics.
Yeah, and so Dil Chahta Hai, I think one of the songs also had didgeridoo in it. Did you have a right?
Actually, वो didgeridoo उनके पास था sample ना, by the way.
वो
लोग लाए थे ऑस्ट्रेलिया से. So in that song, I'm actually playing talking drum and the tambourines, but I did do my voice also behind that as a layer.
Oh, as a layer. So you can't make out immediately, but it's in entirety it is there.
दोनों मिलके वो layer अच्छा लगता है. उन्होंने वो अच्छा लगता है उसको.
Because I think that was the first time that I heard a didgeridoo in mainstream cinema.
Yeah, it was there.
Yeah. And so you were also involved in Masters of Percussion at a point.
Yes, Zakir Bhai always has been doing this tour, tour called Masters of Percussion. So
Right.
short form में mop बोलते हैं.
Mop.
So he's been doing it since '98. So I have toured on the Masters of Percussion with him in 2000. He always does it on even years. So
Huh.
2000, 2002, 2004, 6, 8, 10. I did 6 Masters of Percussion. And then 2012, I could go because it was Shikhar's 10th standard.
Uh,
10th standard final exam. So
okay.
both me and my wife Ritika decided that let's be here because you know how 10th standard is, for our kids. So
Right.
12 mein nahi gaya, and then 14 again it was his 12th standard.
Okay.
So again I couldn't make it. But every time I've been on this Masters of Percussion tour, it was a good opportunity for me to showcase my voice percussion, number one. Second, my djembe. Because in the US and in Europe, there are a lot of people who are playing djembe. And they are playing it in that African style. So for me
Right.
to showcase my djembe playing over there, every time in any city I would play after the concert, there would be some people who would come and meet me and say, "What is this playing you're doing?"
Right.
Because
Right.
I'm playing velas and chakradars and tukras on the djembe. And
Nobody
so,
expects that.
well,
Yeah.
ये क्या है? It can, because they are doing some जो playing है उनका. Now that playing is fantastic, but there is a limit to that playing. You can't
Correct.
do fast playing unless until
Right.
you're using your fingers because djembe playing is
Fingers.
full hand play.
Yeah.
So unless until you bring your fingers into play, you cannot take it to a higher speed, to a speed which is like up there. So they are
Right.
so for me it was nice to showcase the djembe. Many people I got to be known over there in America. Met many people. In fact, through that only Mickey had, because I guess he heard me doing all these voice percussions because in San Francisco he had attended our concert in 2008, and so he saw me doing that djembe, voice percussion. So somewhere Zakir Bhai and he must have discussed, chalo, we'll use him because it's a different thing. Because Planet Drum had already come and it had won the Grammy,
Right. Right.
and it features the same Vicky Hart, Zakir Bhai, Sikiru, and Giovanni, and Baba Tunde Olatunji was there, Biguji was there, 6 of them. So they needed a little different change also of sound in Global Drum Project. That's why they came to me, they had me and Niladri and Sabir. So वो सब तो वो देखा हो तो मेरे लिए अच्छा रहा because I could showcase all my vocal percussion, djembe in all these tours. So this Masters of Percussion tour has been very, very good for me.
And you've also explored your love for sounds from within the Indian subcontinent as well as the surrounding areas through albums like Mystic Soundscapes and
Yes,
you Tadha. You had all
Radha
these
was a
albums.
beautiful album by Abhishek. He had produced the album, and I did I think some nice pieces have come into it. I've been after Abhishek, please put it on. We should now do something about it and put it on Spotify and Ghana and
Amazon
SoundCloud and
Music.
everything.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And also put it on Apple Music, डाल देना चाहिए. It will be nice to have these songs over there. Because there's a nice piece, there's a composition of Niladri Kumar in that, which is sung by Roop Kumar Rathod.
Wow.
And I did the full music arrangement. And the composition is Niladri. And
Okay.
lyrics are beautiful, beautiful, and Roop Bhai has sung so well. And then there's one song which features the Kawa Brass Band from Jaipur.
Okay.
There's a whole brass band playing behind there. And it has that whole, that legend feel in it. There's one
Right,
song.
right. You
Tadha
also
mein-
did a Rajasthan centric album, right?
I took one of my father's songs from
Huh.
the film he had composed, and I did a remix of that with Bela Shende. So that was a good album. I think we should put it on Ghana and Saavn and Spotify में डाल देना चाहिए उसको. It'll do very well now.
Absolutely.
With lockdown.
There was a
And
Rajasthan
of course,
centric album
my
you were part
Mystic
of, no?
Soundscapes, I did music of the forest.
Right.
And forest is one of is for music for that label over there. Music of the forest was one album which did very well for them. You know, they did a series called Music of the Desert and
Yes,
Mountains
yes.
with Zakir Bhai and
Right.
Shivji and all that. So almost after 10 years, they did this.
You're
Uh,
talking about the India Today series, right?
India Today
Yeah.
series.
I had
So
bought those also. Yeah.
the Music of the Forest was a very hot selling album for them.
There was also another series where the five elements were explored, right? Fire, water,
Yeah, yeah. So Zakir Bhai did, what did he do? He did space.
space, I think. Yeah, yeah.
And Varnaj Bhatia did fire. I was there in
Right.
fire with Varnaj
You were
Bhatia.
there in fire, yes.
Yeah. And I don't know. And Bhaskar Da also did one. He did the sea, water.
Sea. Okay,
Water.
water.
He
Huh.
did Bhaskar Da. Bhaskar Chandravarkar, very famous musician.
Yeah, yeah,
And
yeah,
I
I've heard
was
of it.
following that album also. So, and then somebody else did Sky, I think was Hariji. And what is left? One other element.
Earth,
So water was Bhaskar Da, fire was Vandas Bhatia, space was Zakir Bhai, sky was Hariji, and
Earth, maybe.
earth, no,
Wind.
sorry, wind was Hariji and sky was, क्या नाम है इनका? Sky was, I think Shivji.
Okay.
And sorry, earth was Bhaskar Da. Sorry, I'm mistaken.
Right.
Earth was Bhaskar Da.
Okay. Okay.
So, बड़ा अच्छा रहा वो experience working with them. And my first album came before this one, called Colors of Rajasthan.
Yeah, I was about to ask about that. Yeah.
That was my very first album because I had worked with Zakir Bhai on Music of the Desert and with you know, Asha Rani Mathur ji approached me कि तुम करोगे क्या? Colors of Rajasthan. I said, of course I करूँ. And that was in '94. That album came in '94. So that was my first album. You know, Harish, I've done very few albums. If you can actually count my albums on your hand, on your fingers. Because I'm not, I know a lot of my colleagues and other musicians have 30, 40. I know some even have 80 albums, you know. But for me, an album has to, I should feel like doing an album. That's why Tadha I did after many years. That's also because
Yeah.
Abhishek came and, you know, I'm very grateful to him that he put in the money and he said, Taufiq bhai album करते हम लोग ने label भी निकाला ताधा करके उसका album नाम भी दिया. So I did Tadha after a long time. But I'm saying कि for me I need to feel like doing an album. लेकिन वो एक टाइम ऐसा आ गया कि लोग एल्बम सुनना ही बंद कर दिए, सिंगल्स ही हो गया. And now it's all digital.
True.
It's all digital. So, and that's why I feel Tadha should come now on digital platform because it will really do very well.
I'm sure. Is there a new album in the offing, or are you working on any new material?
I'm just releasing small things. You see, I did one piece called The Musical Train, where after a long time I played the drum kit. You see, this drum kit is set up here.
Oh, that's a beauty.
So it's actually Shikhar's drum kit, Mipex.
Oh, okay, Mipex.
But so I'm using the D12 for the kick. That 214 is for the toms. And
overheads, yeah.
The 451B, that mic is for the snare and for the high end. I always use the 214 for my voice.
Oh, okay.
214 for my voice. And for the djembe, it's always the D7 and the D5.
Oh, okay. So D7 for the top.
I played the drum kit after a long time in that piece called The Musical Train. You should go on my YouTube channel and see it. And
I will check it out.
And then I did one album. I keep saying album. One song with the great Vidwan, actually Vidushi, Ashwini Bhideji.
Right.
Her composition called Ajapa, which is a Kabir ka doha, you know, and So Harman, I did the arrangement for that song. So we released that song, and I did all the rhythm in that song is just my voice. And
Oh,
214 best. I'm telling you. Recently, I was working with Purvayan on an album of his just 4 days back at the island city, just before the lockdown.
Thar. Okay. Huh.
That same day, 8 o'clock onwards, lockdown was happening. And we were working in
Oh,
the day. And we were trying to
right.
finish by 6:30. So so they were giving me a different mic over there for my voice percussion. And I said, look, एक तो कोविड का टाइम है मैं मेरा माइक लेके आया हूँ so
Huh.
he said you might be yourself. I said I have my 214. Oh, where best for if you want. So I set up the 214 and I did all my voice percussions through that. And for the djembe, so I'm saying that is something which is going to come very soon. So you just said, now what are you working on? It's Purvan's
Right.
song, but I did all that rhythm arrangement in that song, even working out with Darshan, who's playing the drum with him. कि भाई
Right.
अपने को क्या करना चाहिए? What should I play? What should you play? वैसे demarcate करके. So that is
Right.
something which is coming very soon for Purvan's album, and so I'm on one of the pieces, which
Wow.
also
Okay.
features the great Jordan Rudess of the Dream Theater.
Oh my God. Wow.
With the
That's
piano, and he's
that.
played some fantastic parts on it. I mean, amazing parts.
Yeah.
So yeah,
You've also ventured and done a lot of regional soundtrack for regional cinema, right? Background scores or music or.
yeah, I
Uh,
did one background score for a movie called Jipriya, Marathi film.
okay. Okay.
Lovely, it was a fantastic film. I'm sorry it didn't. I mean, I felt sorry it didn't do well. But it was about this young guy who are actually pocket marte hai sabka. But how their life changes when one of their friends, when somebody dies in their life, and how that whole thing, and it's a whole gang thing, how this Jipriya actually educates himself and becomes a better person. Nice, and the
Okay.
background was all, they are running through trains, running on platforms, and it was a very
Oh, I can
fast-paced
imagine.
film. And I did a lot of vocal percussion. Shikhar helped me in arrangement for that music, and we did a lot of live percussions from here.
Is this a recent one? Is this
No,
a very
it was
recent one?
2 years back. 2 years back. 2 years back.
Oh,
I did.
okay. Okay.
So background scores, I've done a lot of, I've been working on the background scores with, those days in the 80s and 90s. Harish, let me tell you, background scores used to go on for 2 months. We used to be in one
Yeah.
studio, day going there. It was a routine thing. जाने का 9 बजे बैठ जाने का फिर देखने का reel by reel. I've
Right.
worked on with Vanraj Bhatia on films like Ghatak, Himalay Putra, Drohkal,
Oh,
Damini,
yeah. Yes. Yes.
um,
Yes. Yes.
so many other films, background
Mission
scores.
Kashmir, Ashoka.
Ashoka,
M-
yes, with Ranjit Bhai and all the songs.
Right.
Under Ranjit Bhai, I've worked because Ranjit Bhai used to work with Anu Malik,
Right.
and I was a percussionist there. So Ashoka and Ux, and then Mehuna, and then
Oh, yeah.
what
Bhul
else?
Bhulaiya. Bhul Bhulaiya.
भूल भुलैया तो अलग से किया है हम लोगों ने. In that, though, I
Acha.
worked with Uttam on that. Let's Rock My Sonie. That song is in
Right.
that film, and also Meradola.
Right. Right.
So amazing. So working on film songs has been always a great experience because uh, creating a rhythm. I've always done rhythm. So, but making sure that rhythm, like for example, I went one day to Ranjit Bhai's studio at Nirvana. He was working on the background score of Mehuna. And there's one scene where Shahrukh chases the villain on that rickshaw, cycle rickshaw. So पूरा एक scene है. And Ranjit Bhai showed me the scene and he said, आप इसको rhythm से कर लीजिए, then मैं उसको melodically करूँगा. And it was great because people like him and Shankar Son-in-law and Preetham, they have the faith in me कि Taufiq को बुलाया तो कुछ let him do something because
Right.
that faith is the most important thing, Harish. When you
True.
call
Yeah.
someone, if you have the faith in that person, that person will give his best. वो अच्छा करेगा अपना कि नहीं मेरे पे ये भरोसा किया है तो लेट मी डू व्हाटएवर बेस्ट आई कैन डू एंड आई डिड ऑल दीज वॉइस एलिमेंट्स कहीं पे 5 मात्रा आ रहा है कहीं पे 7 मात्रा आ रहा है कहीं पे 9 मात्रा आ रहा है एंड आई डिड ऑल वॉइस परकशन बिग ड्रम्स फ्रेम ड्रम्स breath percussion everything and next day Ranjit bhai came and he called me and said fantastic Taufiq bhai जो escape आपने बना दिया है now I'm going to just put hits and some swells and all that and if you see that it's all hits and swells and it's all rhythm happening you know so it's great that these people can have that faith in me like I said you know Shankar having a faith कि तू rhythm कर दे मैंने उस गाने का rhythm किया तो अभी जैसे कि I went one day for भाग मिल्खा भाग I went to you know they were working in the studio Bandra mein so I went there and Shankar said yaar ye dekho ye bhangra type ka hai and I heard the song and I said Shankar if you can give me a couple of hours I won't tell you what I have in mind but just give me a couple of hours immediately they said okay no problem and they just went out and they sat out all three of them and instead of 2 hours I took about 4 hours but they were patient and I did तो वो पहले प्लान ये था कि ढोल वोल सब डालेंगे and I did that whole Havan Karenge song using only voice percussion. You know, only voice percussion. और क्या क्या अलग अलग textures मैंने किए. उसके बाद मैं देखे even Rakesh had come by then. You know Rakesh और प्रकाश मेरा. And they heard the song and they were like, wow, ये तो पूरा कलर ही बदल गया है. ये तो कमाल हो गया. राकेश ने ये तो कमाल हो गया. ये तो बहुत अच्छा हो गया. So they having the faith in me. Pushes me कि यार अभी मुझे कुछ करना now I have to deliver like Pritam is there you know वो Dhoom 2 का पूरा टाइटल सॉन्ग का एंट्री जो मैंने किया so Pritam and Aditya Chopra they took me up to their office and they said ये हमको सॉन्ग चाहिए and luckily मैंने मेरा मुंबई स्टैम्प बैंड शुरू किया था 1 साल पहले I heard song live in London you know so मेरा तो I said I've heard them live I said you know what I'll give you this sound but let's do something different. Let's not do what they're doing. वो हो गया है. Let's do something of our own. And both of them had their faith in me. And they said, नहीं, okay, Taufiq, you want to try? Let's do it. And what did I do? मैंने सिर्फ लेजिम किया. लेजिम का rhythm, but using track material. और उसका जो effect हुआ है ना, इतना solid effect हुआ है कि सलीम सुलेमान liked that rhythm so much. Throughout the background, in between, they are using those rhythmic ideas. And Salim told me, Taufiq, हमको बहुत अच्छा लगा है. We are going to use it in the background also. I said, ठीक है यार, it's all right. So वो faith, अभी जैसे Sachin Jigar, they are young guys. They put their full faith in me when they came to me and they said ABCD1. तब हमको गणेश चतुर्थी का गाना करना है, डांस का गाना करना है. They put their full faith in me. And I was happy that they were young kids actually. So because they put their faith in me, I did whatever I could best. And that worked for the film and worked for ABCD2 and for ABCD3 they came to me. So which means that they like my work. You know? So, and apart from that, I worked with them in Hindi medium also. So it's good that somebody can put their faith in you and I think that's when you can come out with your best. I think, would you do agree with me, Harish? And wouldn't all these young percussionists who are watching me like Dipesh and whoever else is there agree with me?
I think absolutely what you're saying is right because if you turn this expectation into the fuel that will push you to bring out your best, I think it makes perfect sense. It's a perfectly balanced give and take.
Yes.
Absolutely. And so I also wanted to ask how has this period treated you like the last couple of years? Have there still been assignments that have been done virtually, like for web series or other background scores that you've done in your studio and sent them over to people to use?
We're talking about the last couple of years. See, 1.5 years is gone in lockdown. So we've just been home, not doing much. In between, I did a couple of songs for Hitesh Modak, the music director. I think उसके लिए किया, but वो film अभी आने वाली है, वो तो गाना आया नहीं. So last year was not much work. We were just home. I was just putting out things because in order कि भाई घर पे बैठे हैं तो कुछ creative करो ये सब है. And I want to thank you because your mics at that time came very much handy. mics and
Our
everything.
pleasure.
बस घर
Our
में
pleasure,
बैठे तो
sir.
क्या करना है यार, चलो कुछ ड्रम बजा के डाल दिया, कुछ कर दिया, बहुत काम आया मुझे. I must thank Harman Pro for this giving this mic. So, but 1 year before that, yes, I did work a lot
No,
of
so
film songs.
the reason I was asking about the last 1.5 years is that in spite of the lockdown, many musicians were still whoever could, of course, with maybe a little more of programming rather than live musicians. They were still churning out content and
Yes,
catering to requirements. So I was asking from that perspective. Was
yes, we were, but whatever we were doing was not fetching us any money.
oh
It was we were only doing this so that वो कैसे होता है ना कि ऑयलिंग होते रहना चाहिए, नहीं तो you get
ah
rusted. If you just
right,
sit at home, you get rusted, right?
true,
So
absolutely,
continuously, like I would sit, I was listening to a lot of maestros, you know, मृदंगम maestros, and बड़े बड़े उस्तादों को मैं सुन रहा था. एंड उसको मैं अपनी तरह से कैसे उसको डिफाइन कर सकता हूँ वही चीज को एक अलग रूप में. तो आई वॉज कंपोजिंग न्यू थिंग एंड आई वुड सेंड इट टू ऑल माई स्टूडेंट्स. मेरा व्हाट्सएप ग्रुप में सबको स्टूडेंट्स को भेजता था, देखो आज मैंने ये बनाया, तुम लोग भी ये करो. एवरी मंथ आई वुड सेंड देम वन समथिंग, वन और टू समथिंग, ऑल्सो टू कीप देम एक्टिव. तो वो लोग भी जो स्टूडेंट्स है वो लोग भी एकदम, अरे क्या करेंगे घर में बैठे, अरे कुछ नहीं, कुछ तो करो, कुछ तो निकलो, कुछ बनाओ, कुछ डालो. तो ये हम म्यूजिशियंस लोग, वी वर जस्ट डूइंग इट बिकॉज वी वर गेटिंग फ्रस्ट्रेटेड. तो दिस वुड
right,
वर्क,
right,
राइट. वो फ्रस्ट्रेशन कहाँ निकलेगा रियाज? Put something on the Insta, put something on FB, put something on YouTube channel, कुछ कोलैबोरेशन करो, कुछ करो. मैंने भी किया है, मैंने कम किया है, बल्कि दूसरे म्यूजिशियंस जो मेरे कलीग्स हैं, पूर्व जी है, नीलाद्री जी है, और भी जो लोग हैं, उन लोगों ने तो बहुत कुछ किया है, बहुत ज्यादा कुछ किया है. मैंने फिर भी कम किया, बट just so that you are in the loop with people and you don't
right,
get rusted. But
right,
whatever we were doing was not fetching us money, because you see, throughout this lockdown, and I have nothing against them, they're all my friends also, the only people who made money are the Bollywood guys.
right,
Even through the lockdown, they've done shows, they've done, which is fine. I mean, I'm thankful that at least they could make the money. And we musicians who are connected to classical or fusion or the alternate music, we have not made that way. थोड़ा थोड़ा कुछ इधर उधर से कुछ मिल गया है, but we have not made money. I feel bad for, you see, it's a situation which is bad for us literally, but what about people who are below, जो हमारे से नीचे हैं, उनका क्या?
right,
I mean, हमारे से बड़े जो क्लासिकल म्यूजिशियंस हैं, उनका भी हालत वही, हमारा भी है, उनका भी वो हालत है. बट जो डेली म्यूजिशियंस बजाने वाले हैं, जो ट्यूशंस पे जाते थे, जो रोज पैसा कुछ रोज बजा के या गा के कुछ पैसा कमाते थे, उनका क्या? Throughout this lockdown, we've tried to do our best to do shows where money can be generated. But I don't know, throughout this lockdown, people have also been a little too closed off to buy ticket. I mean, people have not even bought tickets of 200 rupees in order to support these musicians who are doing on a daily basis. So it's a sad thing, and it is continuing. थोड़ा सा बीच में ठीक हुआ, we are back to lockdown. So I guess whatever the government is doing, we are going along with it. But then IPL is still going on. People are
true,
conglomerating. हाँ, audience नहीं है, but जो लोग हैं वो तो सब एक साथ ही बैठे हैं ना. जो
right,
भी उनका ड्रेसिंग रूम है, जो भी है, ग्राउंड में दूर दूर है, बट ड्रेसिंग रूम में तो सब आजू बाजू में है. और वो सब लोग मास्क तो लगा नहीं रहे हैं. कमेंटेटर्स भी आजू बाजू में बैठे हैं, वो भी मास्क नहीं लगा रहे हैं. लेकिन वो सब चीजें हो रही है. तो अभी इसके पीछे कुछ ना कुछ होगा. अभी क्या कर सकते हैं? we will abide by what the government is saying, and we will do our best to abide by it and keep meeting on Insta and talking about it.
Well, let me just check some comments if some questions have come in. Any motivation for young musicians with respect to failure? Please let us know your thoughts, sir. Raghav Soni is asking.
See, motivation, you have to motivate in these kind of bad times, you have to motivate yourself. And your music has to be a motivator for you. Whatever music you do should motivate you. I'll just give you a very small example. Music always relaxes me. If I'm in a stress, if I just sit and I start counting my bowl, or I'll just take my djembe or my drum kit and I start practicing, I get relaxed. I'll just give you a small example. You know, in December, last year, December,
Yeah.
I did my left eye cataract. So it was an
Okay.
early cataract for me. And this cataract operation was supposed to happen in March in 2019.
Oh.
Sorry, 2020. It was supposed to happen in March, but because of the COVID, सब आगे निकल गया. So in January, when I met my ophthalmologist, she said, you have to do it because it's in a bad state. You better get it done. So, sorry, in November. So I said, चलो December में करते हैं. थोड़ा सा December में थोड़ा सा ठीक ठाक हो गया था. So I did this. I had no idea कैसे होता है, क्या होता है. And I have actually lost my sister in 2000 to a cataract operation. Can you imagine? She died.
Oh
But
my.
that was a whole different ball game. So वो भी दिमाग में रहता है ना, वो भी दिमाग में है. So I said, okay, करते हैं. December 12th fix हुआ. I went to Hinduja. So what they do is you lie down, and because of COVID, they just cover you pura. So you get
Right.
suffocated actually. You feel claustrophobic. तो मेरे को एक तो वो मेरी सिस्टर का था, and you know दिमाग में वो. So I panicked for a minute. And you know they strap you, you know आप ऐसे लेके पूरा covered है. So I was feeling a little. I said, oh God. I was trying to get up, so they held me down. I said, what happened? I said, I'm feeling. So they took it off for a minute and said, sir, we'll have to do it like this only. Just relax, take it easy. So the anesthetist जो था, he was a fantastic guy. He said, don't worry, sir. I'm holding your hand. I'm here with you. So you just relax, take it easy, do deep breathing. I suddenly remembered, you know, 7-8 years back, I had done my nasal septum operation. And it was on local. I could see everything going in my nose, coming out. So what I had done at that time was, you know, throughout this nasal septum, which was a 35-minute, 40-minute surgery, I was counting my bowls. मैं कंटिन्यूसली एक ताल पढ़ रहा था, उसके अंदर मैं पेशकार कर रहा हूँ, चक्करदार कर रहा हूँ, कायदा कर रहा हूँ. And it was done by a very famous, you know, ENT doctor, Kirtane. He is supposed to be one of the biggest guys who's there. And he said, yeah, keep doing that, keep doing that. He was constantly telling me, keep doing that, because I was getting relaxed.
Right.
So suddenly I remember this. I said, okay, put it, no problem. And I started seeing a tal, शिखर ताल, which is a 17 मात्रा ताल, 17 मात्रा का ताल है. तो मुश्किल है, तो उसमें सोचना पड़ता है अभी मैं क्या करूंगा. तो वो पूरा ध्यान वहां से चला गया. मेरा पूरा ध्यान जो है वो शिखर ताल की तरफ गया. मैं पेशकार कर रहा हूँ, मैं उसमें एक तिहाया निकाल रहा हूँ, ये कर रहा हूँ. कब मेरा ये आयका खत्म हुआ मुझे समझ में ही नहीं आया. 20 मिनट का टोटल वो है सर्जरी. In 20 minutes, so that doctor said, finally, what were you chanting? What mantra were you chanting? I said, no mantra. ये मंत्र नहीं है, ये तबले का बोल मैं chant कर रहा था. He said, oh, because it sounded, because मैं अपने अंदर बोल रहा हूँ ना, like, so it's, to them it sounded like smoke or something, you know. I said, no. I was just saying the pose. मुझे पता भी नहीं चला कब मेरा हो गया. And then in Feb 22nd, I did my right eye surgery. तो वो तो मुझे समझ में ही नहीं आया कब हो गया. वो तो वो लगाया, मैं अपना चालू किया, and then वो हो गया. So music is something which relaxes you. Try it when you are stressed.
Absolutely.
For me,
Absolutely.
and this comes to me because one day, sorry, I'm taking so much time. I came from college.
Yeah, please.
I'm talking about 1982. I came from 1980. I had just joined college, right? And 81. What did I say? 81. I just joined college. So one day I came home and I was very stressed. You know, just the second week of college. क्या क्या होता है स्ट्रेसेस, stress. So I came and my father was there and he said, क्या हुआ बेटा, वो लग रहा है, बोला हाँ थोड़ा कॉलेज का, बोले रियाज करो। तो मैंने बोला अब्बा जी मैं बाद में करता हूँ, नहीं नहीं अभी बैठो वहां, रियाज करो। अभी अब्बा जी को तो हम ना कभी नहीं बोल सकते। तो मैंने अपना बैग रखा, मैं आया बैठा, started practicing. In 10 minutes I had forgotten all my stress, क्योंकि मैं वो रियाज में घुस गया ना, मैं उस गोल में घुस गया, मैं उसमें घुस गया। मैंने आधा आधा पौना घंटा रियाज किया, मैं पूरा भूल गया मेरा स्ट्रेस। मैं जब उठा तो मेरे अब्बा जी ने पूछा अभी कैसा लग रहा है, बहुत अच्छा लग रहा है। बोले बेटा जब भी स्ट्रेस आए ना, रियाज करो, या तो गिनती का रियाज करो या बैठ के रियाज करो, वो हमेशा तुम्हें रिलैक्स करेगा। तो ये मोटिवेशन इज इन दिस टाइम, रियाज, प्रैक्टिस and composing, doing something new is always a motivation. It will always relax you. And because
True.
you're doing something so great, it'll come out, you'll come out with something fantastic. So let your music be your motivation to bring you out of any kind of problems or stress.
So true. So true. Absolutely. I agree 100%. There is one more comment. Akshay says, I have heard that piano is also a percussion instrument, mainly because of how it produces the sound. Would love to have your thoughts on that.
Yes, Akshay, anything which is struck is a percussion instrument. Whatever is struck, even santoor is a struck. It's a melodic instrument, but it is a rhythmic melodic instrument. So is harp, because it is struck, plucked. There's a striking happening.
Right.
So anything which is struck, piano also जब आप strike ही करते हैं ना उसको, तो इसलिए वो percussion instrument में आ जाता है। और but because there is a melodic scale to it, melodic structure. So vibraphone, marimba, all these things are steel drum. They are all melodic instrument, but they are rhythmic melodic instrument because either they are plucked or they are struck. So that's why they come under percussion instrument. But piano, of course, is one instrument which is amazing because if you're I'm not a pianist, but I know a pianist can do so much with the left hand, doing the rhythmic part, and of course, ये भी rhythmic ही चल रहा है, but there is a melodic structure happening. And all these instruments, whether it's a marimba or a piano or a santoor or a steel drum, you cannot, there's no sustained note. Sustain होता है piano में because of that pedal. And santoor में भी उसका अपना एक sustain है वो है, but उसमें आप meaned जो होती है ना, like ये नहीं कर सकते।
Swell, right.
Swell या खटका, ये जो वोकल में होता है या सितार में भी आप निकाल सकते हैं, करूर में वो तो आप नहीं कर सकते। But still, some musicians can do magic with this instrument, like पंडित शिव कुमार शर्मा। वो इंस्ट्रूमेंट में मारवा राग बजाना, संतूर में मारवा बड़ा गंभीर राग है, उसको बहुत टाइम तो इंस्ट्रूमेंटलिस्ट और गाने वाले भी सोचते हैं कि नहीं बजाएंगे, नहीं करेंगे। तो उसका एक बड़ा माइंडसेट अलग है, वो बड़ा गंभीर राग है, उसको किस तरह से उसको डिफाइन करना है, उसको सामने लाना है। लेकिन उन्होंने संतूर पे मारवा राग बजाया है, ये बहुत कमाल है। मेरे लिए वो सबसे, मैं जब जेबे करता, मैंने जब से शुरू किया और पहले से मेरे लिए, मेरे बचपन से हमने तो, मेरे लिए तो वो बड़े भाई जैसे हैं। शिवजी हैज बीन अ रोल मॉडल एंड इंस्पिरेशन। और जेबे जब मैंने शुरू किया वो मेरे लिए सबसे बड़े, बिकॉज संतूर के वक्त भी उनके लिए बहुत सारे नेगेटिव पॉइंट्स आए, बहुत सारे बैरियर्स आए, लेकिन उन्होंने वो सब तोड़ के उन्होंने वो बनाया। उन्होंने मुझे हमेशा बोला है कि जब मेरा जेबे उन्होंने सुना, बोले देखो तुम्हें भी बहुत सारे बैरियर्स आएंगे तौफीक, लेकिन आगे बढ़ते रहना, जो तुम कर रहे हो बहुत अच्छा काम कर रहे हो। तो वो मेरे लिए भी, वो मेरे लिए एक इंस्पिरेशन है। तो और some of the pianists who are playing, like for example, let's say this Jordan Rudess, the way he's playing, amazing stuff on that piano. तो हम वो फिर भूल जाते हैं कि वो मेन, वो खटका नहीं, जो कर रहे हैं वो बहुत है। It is amazing. It is amazing. Like Louis, the way he plays, Louis Max.
Absolutely.
Amazing piano playing. I'm telling you, we just don't call him father of jazz in India just like that, because he is
true.
the man. Or Joe, I mean, I've worked with him so much, and actually learned under him. Whenever I'm
True.
in the presence of musicians like Louis Bang or Zakir Bhai, for me it's a master class,
Right.
happening, one-on-one master class. So it's amazing to have been able to be on stage with them and uh, perform with them. The way Luigi plays piano, the way he can, और उनको रागदारी का भी अंदाजा है, जैज का भी अंदाजा है, the way he can emote राग को लेके वो कैसे जैज स्केल पे जाते हैं, तो अमेजिंग. सो वो मेन नहीं आ रहा है, खटका नहीं आ रहा है, वो फिर अपने को पता ही नहीं चलता है.
Great. Oh, we have Aditya here also from Damru Festival.
Ah, how are you?
Can you hear me? Yeah. We have Aditya here from Damru Festival. He's sharing his thoughts. Rhythm gets you in the moment and relaxes you completely. Rhythm heals. Thank you for narrating your experience, Taufiq bhai.
Yeah, rhythm heals, definitely. मतलब आप जब सीख रहे हैं तो बहुत जोर का लगता है हाथ में. जब आप सीख रहे हैं तो बहुत लगता है, अरे हाथ दुख रहा है. मैं स्टूडेंट्स को भी सिखाता हूँ ना, सर मेरे को इधर दुख रहा है, सर मेरे को इधर दुख रहा है, इधर दुख रहा है. तो बोला पहले बहुत दुखेगा, लेकिन बाद में ये दुखना निकल जाएगा, फिर मजा आएगा. यू नो
उसका एडवांटेज भी होता है. लाइक I play a bit of the guitar, a bit of the drums and djembe also. So the fingertips and यहाँ पे जो छाले पड़ते हैं, so you can easily pick up hot stuff without चटका नहीं खाते हो आप जल्दी. तो लोग पूछते हैं क्या हो गया तुझे, चटका नहीं खाता क्या?
आदत नहीं है तो वो होता ही है. इट्स लाइक आई एक्सप्लेन टू देम कि आपको मसल्स बनाने हैं तो आप वेट लिफ्टिंग के लिए जाते हैं. आप सीधा 50 केजी तो थोड़ी उठाओगे. आप 10 से शुरू करोगे, 15, 25 उठाने के बाद में इधर बहुत दुख रहा है, इधर बहुत दुख रहा है. लेकिन वो करते जाओगे तो वो दुखना एक दिन निकल जाएगा और आपके मसल्स अच्छे डोले शोले हो जाएंगे. लेकिन वो डोले शोले के लिए थोड़ा दुखना तो पड़ेगा ना, नहीं तो कैसे आएंगे डोले शोले. वही है, जब तक तो थोड़ा दुखेगा नहीं यहाँ वहां तो आपका प्लेइंग कैसे अच्छा होगा. तो रिदम हील्स, बट पहले थोड़ा चोट लगाता है. चोट लगने के बाद में वो जो बजाने से जो हीलिंग होता है अंदर का, इंटरनल हीलिंग, दैट इज, आई एग्री विद आदित्य, it does heal you. It does heal you.
True. There's one last comment we'll read. Pandit Ulhas Bapat added the need to the Santoor for an R&D Burman recording.
So क्या हुआ?
No, someone just mentioned that. I think this was when you were talking about the mean.
Yes. उल्लास बापट जी was a fantastic, मतलब वो एक बहुत, he was a genius. वो जिस तरह से ट्यूनिंग करते थे ना, उनकी ट्यूनिंग ऐसे थी कि वो राग कभी भी बदल सकते थे विदाउट ट्यूनिंग.
वाह.
वो इधर का क्रोमेटिक ऐसे क्रोमेटिक करते थे ट्यूनिंग, तो वो कभी भी कोई भी राग जो चेंज करना है तो वो कहीं से भी वो राग बदल से सकते थे. और वो फिल्म इंडस्ट्री में बजाते थे ना, तो उनको वो ट्यूनिंग बहुत काम आता था. It was a nice way to tune it, because कभी भी वो बजाते समय क्या चेंज करना है मेलोडिकली, तो उनको वापस रीट्यूनिंग नहीं करना पड़ता. वो उनकी ट्यूनिंग ऐसी होती थी कि उनके माई वो एडजस्ट हो जाता. सो ही वाज, और वो उन्होंने मेन निकाली थी. यस, संतूर पे वो स्ट्राइक करके वो स्लाइड करते थे, तो उसको मेन आती थी.
Wow.
I mean, I've had the opportunity of working with him on so many film songs. He's come to work with us when I used to work under Zakir Bhai in films like Saaz and In Custody and Everybody Says I'm Fine. Sorry, काफी फिल्मों के बैकग्राउंड में वो हमारे साथ रहे हैं. He used to be there, and also I've worked with him for other music directors, like, and he used to be there. हम लोग ने काम किया साथ में. जतिन ललित के यहाँ है, या आनंद मिलिंद के यहाँ है, या राजेश रोशन जी के यहाँ पे. So we used to meet a lot in studios, and I used to have a great time talking with him. बहुत अच्छा लगता था उनके साथ बात करके.
Great. So I think we've overshot our, and it's been a lot of fun. But
after 1 hour you have to change वो सब क्या 1 घंटा तो होके गया ना कब का?
1 घंटे के ऊपर हो गया सर, पता भी नहीं चला.
तो वो after 1 hour don't you have to disconnect and then log again?
I don't think so. I've never had to do that. We've gone on over an hour also.
हुआ करता था at least मुझे याद है, लेकिन अभी नहीं है तो फिर.
So I'd like to take this opportunity to thank you, Taufiq bhai, for joining us, spending so much time with us,
inviting me, and thank you, Harish, and thank you,
and sharing your knowledge with everyone. Our pleasure, sir. Always our pleasure.
Thanks to Harman Pro for being such a big support to us artists throughout our music journey, and especially throughout this lockdown. Thank you so much. I still remember my Soundcraft.
The console 22. Yeah.
I got it in the lockdown because I needed a mixer very badly because I was working on the drum kit and all that. And thanks to you, thanks to Hum that I got this mixer.
Always a pleasure, sir.
I'd like to show it. I'd like to show it. Yeah, see? There.
Yes. Oh, wow.
All mics and everything, and I'm so thankful that in this lockdown, a lot of my work became very easy. Thank you so much.
Thankfully, we were able to send that across at the last moment. Acha ho gaya wo. It worked out.
Okay. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, sir.
Take care. Bye-bye.
All right. Take care.
And bye. Thanks to all of you who have joined, and thank you so much for being there. And
thank you.
My journey. Thank you.
Thanks, guys. Bye.